But why Brexit is good and not bad for Europe in a world that is becoming more and more regionalized?
So the first thing to say is that Brexit, I should also say, by the way, despite the fact I've lived in the States for 25 years, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I grew up in England and remain an Englishman. There's a famous Gilbert and Sullivan opera which contains the line, "In spite of all temptations to belong to other nations, he remains an Englishman." And I think that's probably true of me. The second thing to say is that what will happen on January the 31st, in, 2 weeks' time, the bells will ring out around the kingdom at 11 o'clock that night, and the UK will cease to be, despite 4 years of attempts by the Parliament, British establishment and everybody else to try and block it from happening. Thanks to the wisdom of the British people in the general election last month, where they elected Boris Johnson with a landslide, Britain will finally leave the European Union, and it will leave. I know there's a lot of negotiations still to be had over the future trading relationship, but it will be gone from the European Union on the 31st of January. The European Union will be 27 countries, not 28, and the UK will once again be an independent nation. Look, I think, of course, there are risks with Brexit, and I think nobody, and of course, some of the people like me who supported Brexit understated the risks. There was no question about that, and the trade negotiations will be difficult.
But the cost for Brexit has been high, and growth went down.
Sure. Well, British growth has been actually right in line.
170 billion, I think. But anyway,
British growth has been absolutely in line with European growth the last 4 years. If you look at if you take from June 16 to January to December 19, UK growth has averaged about 1.25%. EU average has been about 1.2, 1.3%. So anyway, but the point is, I would say there's been a negative impact of the vote because of the uncertainty caused. I think there's no question that investment numbers in the UK have fallen, capital investment have fallen quite significantly between 2016 and 2019. I wouldn't say that was actually a response to Brexit, because Brexit hadn't happened. It was a response to the dramatic uncertainty that was caused by this 3.5 years that the British government spent dithering and the British Parliament spent dithering over delivering Brexit. I think the very strong probability now that uncertainty is resolved, I think there's a very good chance that Britain will. Look, Britain's economy has a number of great strengths. It's got a very strong education sector. It's got a very strong technology sector, probably the liveliest technology sector in Europe. It is not tied to some of the challenges, I think, that face the European economy. Look at Germany. Germany is a country which, as successful as its economy has been, is very much an export-led economy, dependent heavily on cars and related capital machinery and all of that kind of stuff, and that is going to be challenged. Trade is going to be under pressure for a long time. So there's lots and lots of good things I think that Britain can get out of Brexit. Yes, there will be costs on the issue of, will Scotland try to leave? Again, much is going to depend on what happens in the next year. If, as you say, it emerges that the decision to leave was a catastrophe for the UK, then there will clearly be pressure from the Scots to leave. But the practicalities for Scotland to leave are enormous. Will they keep their own? Will they have their own currency? Will they join the euro? Do they really want to, have a border between Scotland and England? The latest polls, by the way, for what it's worth, show that if there were a referendum in Scotland tomorrow, it'd be almost exactly the same result as the referendum in 2014, when the Scottish rejected leaving the UK by 55 to 45%. So I think that's been overdone. I think Brexit will actually prove to be quite smooth. I think it will go relatively well, and all of this hysteria, frankly, that's been going on for the last 3.5 years will dissolve overnight, and people will get on, and Britain will get on with being a sensible.
I would suggest that we have a poll. We have our own poll. Let's see if you convince our audience whether it's a good thing for England to leave Europe. We're not going to ask for everybody's opinion, of course, but then we'll open to the floor and everybody can address. So I would ask our audience, whoever favors Brexit, to raise their hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we have about 8 out of 50. So it's a big minority.
A lot of don't know.
No, I'm sure that the others are very certain.
Ask those who maybe think it's a bad idea.
But I know that I saw someone raised their hand You know, some is just because it's the right, so it's the political connotation.
Not everybody
Some others are because they think that it's bad for Europe, and so it's better that England leaves. But anyway, we'll discuss about that. But this is my
I'll
point.
get straight on the phone to Boris Johnson and tell him
Exactly.
it's received a thumbs down
Yeah,
from
exactly.
the
Call him
Italian
up.
business community.
Italian business community in New York have thumbs down. But the point that I was anticipating before is that the rumor really, and this is a piece of news also for you probably, that why Harry and Meghan are leaving is because of Brexit. And of course the monarchy
It's
is
called
now,
Megxit. Yeah,
the monarchy is now crumbling, and I don't think it's a coincidence. So
I would have no problem with Prince Harry and Meghan leaving. The Queen isn't going anywhere. The Prince of Wales isn't going anywhere, and William clearly isn't going anywhere. So these minor royals who kind of cost the British taxpayer a huge amount of money, while they go and do their own thing. If they want to go and do that and live off the Canadian taxpayer, I think the British people would be extremely happy with that.
okay, so let's